Hey, audit and fraud, friends and family. Listen, we've all seen some movie somewhere about somebody getting defrauded. But here's the question that I have. When do we get to a point where art imitates life, or is it life imitating art? Which is it? By the way, what's your favorite movie about fraud? Let me know. Because what we're going to talk about today is lights, camera, fraud action. Are you ready? Let's go.
Welcome to the Friday Fraudster podcast. Join them as they discuss sad, funny, and sometimes disturbing fraud stories. Be sure to catch past episodes on your favorite podcasting platform or go to www.fridayfraudster.com.
All right, you guys, you heard the question that I asked, right? What's your favorite movie involving a fraud? Because sometimes I wonder between Law and Order and between, the TV shows and the movies, is art imitating life or is life imitating art at this particular point in time? So, Stephanie, what's your favorite movie about fraud? And I think she's answering already. She said The Beekeeper was an amazing movie. I hadn't been able to watch the whole thing yet. Everybody keeps telling me, you got to finish it. You got to go back and finish it. But I have just been too busy. So maybe this weekend, I'll give it a watch and I'll tell you what I think about it. But do you think art is imitating life or life is imitating art? And so without further ado, we're going to ask a special guest host, Christine.
Hey,
Christine, what is your favorite movie involving fraud?
this might be a stretch, but The Accountant.
Ooh,
It's got minimal
okay.
fraud in there. I mean,
A little bit of
it's a
fraud.
good
Yeah,
movie.
it is a good movie.
Or I like Catch Me If You Can.
I like that one. Yeah.
Mhm.
I like Catch Me If You Can. I like so one of my favorite movies of all time now. Granted, the entire movie wasn't surrounding fraud, but these gentlemen were in jail for doing a bunch of kind of bad things, but The Shawshank Redemption.
Oh,
It's one of the
mhm.
best movies of all time. It doesn't get much better than that. But yeah, Catch Me If You Can was really, really good. Well, nowadays we have a slew of movies coming out with fraud, specifically fraud against the elderly. Have you ever seen I Care a Lot?
No,
You've
I'll
got to
look it up.
put that one on your list.
Let me see.
It's on Netflix. And what happened was the lady, she basically entrusted or gained the trust of elderly folks and tried to swindle them out of their estates. It is
That one looks like
very,
it's good.
very good. It is. It is extremely good. Now there are also a couple of documentaries out too. There's this documentary called Dirty Money. You got to watch that one too,
Okay.
because of course, like most years, a lot of federal agencies are reporting an uptick in elder abuse and elder crime, and it really makes me mad. I almost said something else.
Have you watched Heist documentary? I think each show is a different thing.
No,
Um,
I've not seen that.
You have to watch that one, especially the one where it's the documentary about the stealing of the $500,000 in Pappy Van Winkle bourbon from Buffalo Trace.
Oh,
Yeah, because
oh
it's
wow.
essentially like these guys worked there, and like every once in a while, like they got to take a bottle home or whatever, right? And one of his friends came over to his house, and he had like 3 unopened bottles of Pappy Van Winkle, and the guy's like, holy cow, you got that? And he's like, well, yeah, it's not a big deal. And he's like, I'll pay you $1,000 for a bottle. So then they just started siphoning the bottles from work, and then they eventually just started stealing barrels of whiskey. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Now that I have to see. Now Stephanie says she liked to catch me if you can until it came out that it was a lie. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm gonna still believe it's true.
Well, and the thing is, they still haven't said yay or nay with 100% certainty. They're just saying that it seems like he may have embellished a few things. And Joe Horowitz is here. Joe, we got to get you on when we do another case involving cybersecurity. We've got to get you on to talk about cyber. So listen. So I was reading some FBI statistics, and they were saying that crimes against the elderly are up again. And here's the
Mhm.
thing. What is elderly nowadays? Because the retirement ages keep pushing up. Most of us know that we aren't going to have social security when we get ready to retire. And so it seems like as we age and we start to accumulate some money, we want to believe that the people we entrust it to will mm, use it in our best interest, from investment advisors to 401k accounts, etc. You have any
Well,
investment advice?
FinCEN does have like under their elder exploitation, the age they have defined as 60 and older. And I think that actually
That's
moved
not
down.
elderly.
Well, I think it used to be 65. And no, it's not elderly. I mean, you are closer to it than I am, but
What was really funny was when I realized that in about 4 or 5 more years, I'm actually eligible to join AARP like that.
my husband gets their magazines. Although
See?
he is a little bit older than I am, but not close to retirement, that's for sure. Mhm.
Now, Stephanie says, I think that it's just more being reported. Also, as the boomers age, they have the most money for the picking. Yeah, they have a whole ton of money. They have a whole ton of money. Most of them do.
Yeah, and I think the capability, I mean, our technology over time is getting better. The capabilities of reporting, tracking, data, that sort of stuff is going to help get, you know, really focus on what is fraud dealing with as far as with elderly individuals and stuff like that. So, mhm.
Yeah, so let's go to Stephanie's point. She thinks that it's being reported more. I can get with that, but then I also know this is just my personal opinion, so I could be wrong about this, but I also think because we have a huge breakdown in the family structure and in the community structure, we have it happening a whole lot more. Because I've said a few times, I've been to a couple of funerals in the last few years, more than I care to count. I just went to one last month. Yeah, last month. My uncle died last month. Um, and what I noticed was at his funeral were some of his old friends that he's known his entire life. And even more interesting, some of them actually, helped out with him as he was getting up there in age a little bit. And so one of
Mhm.
them, I went up to him and I had to personally thank him because he had done a lot for my uncle during the last few days. And I imagine for those who are elderly who still have close ties with their family, if they got a call from somebody saying, hey, I need for you to buy this cryptocurrency or whatever,
Right.
they would have talked to a family member and they may have, warned them against it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that, but then I think coming from financial institutions, there's also the side that some of that elder fraud exploitation comes from people that they trust. I mean, I've seen it come from family members, from children, from brothers and sisters that have just completely taken advantage of their parents' accounts and stuff like that. So, and that's even harder to, assess, because you don't have that outside person or that family member that's going, hey, this doesn't seem right. If you only have one or two kids that helps you with your money as you get older, who's there to help you if you think that they're doing it?
Yeah. Well, I think if you have two kids and one is trying to do it, then the other one might help. But if you only
Mhm.
have one kid, or if all of your kids are in on it, oof, that could be problematic. So you're saying that in your experience, you've seen it come from some of those close friends and family members, or just people that they have a high level of trust with.
Mhm. Oh yeah. And it's
Yeah.
even more sad when sometimes you're like, okay, well, do you want to file a police report so we can try and get your money back? And then they don't.
Ooh.
Hmm.
Yeah, because they don't want their family member to get in trouble.
Right.
Oh,
Yep. So
yeah.
that's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you, Stephanie. There's a lot of people taking there are a lot of people taking advantage of all vulnerable adults, including the disabled.
Hmm. The
So
FBI said there was 11% increase or 14% increase in elder fraud in 2023.
yeah.
Tech support scams and investment scams were the costliest kind of elder fraud in 2023, costing victims more than $1.2 billion.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of times too, it ends up happening, especially when the elderly just want somebody to talk to. Because they get on the phone with that person from tech support that's not really a person from tech support, and they start having a conversation, and then they wear them down over time. So there's this one YouTube channel. I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's this guy, um, a young gentleman, probably about early 30s. He scams the scammers. So what he does is when he gets a scam called, or when he gets wind of a scammer, he'll call them back and he'll get them on the phone for hours at a time and just waste their time. And here's the other thing about it. He's a hacker. So sometimes he'll hack into their computers, or he'll do something like the scammer will think they have him on the hook baited, and the scammer will ask him to share his screen. He'll share his screen to a fake bank account now with like hundreds of thousands of dollars in it, and he will pretend to wire money to the wrong bank account. So the scammers will be sitting there. They will give him the account number, the routing number. He'll type it in. He'll be off by one digit. You can hear the scammer saying, "No, it's not this number. It's that number." And then he'll push the button on the fake wire transfer, and the money will
Yeah.
leave the account, and the scammers will start screaming and yelling. It's quite entertaining to watch. So Joe Horowitz, have you seen this guy before? I wish I could remember his channel because it's quite entertaining.
We talked about this on a different Friday Fraudster podcast, because I think you and I picked, like, there was like two or three individuals that were like, oh yeah, it's hilarious because they're wasting the scammers' time.
Yeah, yeah. Because I know we
Mhm.
also talked about this lady, Rosie IRL, Rosie in real life. Her YouTube
Yep.
channel
Yep.
is
Yep.
just fascinating. I love her. But yeah, so I kind of wish there were more people out there who could help the elderly. I kind of wish family units stayed together like they're supposed to, because then
Mhm.
they would have an eye and an ear. And like I said on some other shows, if you have elderly people in your family, just give them a call every once in a while and ask them what's going on in their life. And if they talk about somebody on the phone talking to them, asking for money, then that's when you can step in.
I like hearing my grandpa telling me stories of when people call him and like he doesn't know him and he'll just yell at him and hang up the phone. He's
Yep.
93. Like, I'm just in here going, oh yeah, he is. I don't have to worry about him.
Yeah, that's what both my grandmothers used to do. My grandfathers wouldn't even yell; they just hang up the phone. So now we've got an uptick in elder abuse, and we've got a lot of elderly people, especially boomers, who probably have a significant nest egg. And who do they trust with it? They trust typically financial advisors. You know, some of them are waiting on Social Security. But what if what if your financial advisor defrauded you?
Well, there would be a big problem because my financial advisor is my cousin.
That would be, yeah, that would probably be a real big problem.
And my husband was the one that helped him get the job where he works at. So, and he absolutely
Ooh,
loves it. He does I absolutely love Luke. He does a great job at his job. So yeah, we would have a problem there. Um,
yeah.
but I mean, like, right, like, and I know some people are probably like, oh my, like, there's some people are like, I can't believe you, well, that you have your cousin taking over your portfolio or whatever. And I'm just like, whatever. It doesn't make a difference if he does it or if I pay some random person at a different company to do it. Either way, he's just putting my money places and then I get statements. So I see what it's doing. He's the one that's helping me do stuff that I don't know how to do, is make more money on my money.
Well, and here's the
So,
thing: as long as your cousin is competent, right?
oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah,
It blows my mind, his knowledge in that. And I say that only like because he's significantly younger than I am as well. So like I'm always like, man, I wish I was that smart at your age. Um,
you're a whole lot smarter in other stuff, though.
well, and I'll take that. So I just always sit there because I mean he's got a passion for it. He knows what he does, but um I honestly don't know how I would feel. Let's say it wasn't my cousin. Like I think I would probably cry and die a little bit inside because that's retirement money. Like I don't want to work forever.
Yeah.
Um there would be a lot of hate that would probably build up in me. Um what about you? What would you do?
Um, I think I'd be checking my statements regularly anyway. Well, I do check my statements regularly. Um, I would be questioning a lot of things, and if I were to get scammed, I would be upset. I don't know about angry. I don't really get angry. I'm not an angry kind of person. I've had to start over in life just recently, several years ago, and so, and I've told the story some in small bits, and I don't think anybody's ever seen me angry. So I don't really get angry, but I do think that I would work hard to hustle and try and build things back. I definitely would lose faith and trust in certain segments of humanity. I wouldn't write off all of humanity initially. I probably would be very jaded towards, say a financial advisor if it was a financial advisor that took my money, or a family member if the family member took all of my money. But yeah, well, and I think Christine, that's why I'm so surprised and upset by today's person because, well, she worked for Citibank
Yep.
and she was a VP. She was a vice president at Citibank's South Michigan Avenue office in Chicago. And so, if you guys don't know, South Michigan Avenue is like the ritzy area of Chicago. It's where a lot of money is. It's downtown, right there, where what is it? The Michigan Mile, right? The Magnificent Mile. Sorry, where you have a lot of companies, you have a lot of stores. It's a very ritzy area, and Citibank is a very reputable financial institution. So,
Yeah.
so mind you, we're not slighting Citibank today, but she did work for Citibank.
I just
So
like I said, I know it's just recently that she got caught, and I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, like, did they actually get her for everything that she took, or are there people? Because we talked about this before that this is dealing with elderly individuals. How many people did she rip off before that are no longer with us? So there was nobody reporting on their money that was being taken.
that's a very good point. And what makes this one even more interesting is how she did it and what she did with the money.
Because
She
I
would
mean,
convince
go ahead.
she would convince elderly clients to invest their money. Now, elderly clients of Citibank to invest in her film production venture. There are three victims that came forward and were, actually at the trial. And one victim said she wrote 13 checks to her totaling $400,000. 400, $500,000.
Yeah. That's a lot. That's a lot of money. And I think that's the crazy thing about this is it's not even like it's a scam. It really is. But like these people, it's not like she took these people's money without them knowing, sent them false. She didn't pull like a Bernie Madoff where she was sending out fake statements and stuff like that. It was they gave her the money hoping they were doing an investment and then she just funneled that money to herself.
Yeah. Well, and the really interesting thing about this was one elderly woman said that she thought the investment advisor was her friend. So she willingly took the money and invested it into this film project. And now let's just be honest about a few things. Anytime you invest in something like that, it's probably more risky than investing in the market, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you invest in the market, you expect to get some sort of a return. You expect some down years, some up years. This is a film project, and most film projects actually flop. We do know that. But she
Mm-hmm.
took advantage of these women's trust, and they gave her the money to invest in the film project. I would venture to guess that she probably invested in this film project knowing
I think Rob froze again. Um, I'm hoping he comes back on. Hello, Rob.
Yeah, I disappeared for a second there. I see. No, and when that happens, you can just keep talking because you'll still be there. But all I was saying was, I would imagine if the film had come out and if it had done badly in the theaters and they had lost
Mm-hmm.
money because of that, they probably would have still been okay because they felt like they were investing in a friend.
Correct. Right. Um, and I guess that's my thought too on that is how did she think her out was going to be? Because did they talk about what type of a movie she was trying to create, or was it just a shell account that she made up?
Yeah, well, if you look at her personal webpage, she described herself as being a financial services professional, a filmmaker, and a philanthropist. So, you know, I really couldn't tell exactly what her job was at Citi because, in banking, almost everybody's an AVP or a VP, right? There's almost every position is AVP this or VP that. So
Mhm.
I, I thought maybe she was an investment banker. And if you look in the Chicago area, investment bankers make a base salary of about, it could go from 150 to upwards to about 250. And then you get bonuses of about 50,000 to about $100,000. So depending on what she was doing, she was probably making a fair amount of money, which should have
Mhm.
gone into the investment accounts that she managed at Citibank. Now, she was using this money towards her venture, towards her filmmaking. So I would venture to
Mhm.
guess that filmmaking was probably more important than being a financial services professional to her.
She does have an IMDb. She's on
Yeah.
there. She's got 4 movies.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm guessing it wasn't a cover then. She was going for her next one, but really.
It was not a cover. She actually was a filmmaker. And so that social proof probably was what she used to actually tell them, to convince them to give her the money. But what law enforcement is saying is that she deposited much of the money into her personal bank account and spent it on things for herself.
Yeah. And she was in the industry for 30 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a long time. That's a long career to throw out the window. And she's not that old.
Yeah.
How old is she?
Yeah. My
Uh,
guess is most of her movies probably flopped because if they didn't, she would be getting residual checks from them over time,
mhm.
you know? So
So she's
my guess is
59.
most of the movies flopped. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. She's not that old. So,
Mm-mm.
uh, mm, mm.
Oh, and the
So,
one that gave the 400,000, she lives in a nursing home.
yes. Yes. So let's dig into that. So from 2018 to 2020 is when she convinced the people, the elderly individuals, to invest in her movie production company. In 2021, November of 2021, she left her position at City. About 4 months after she left her position at City actually reported her to the Illinois Department of Aging Adults Protective Services Division. However, this division chose not to take any action because the way the law is currently written is that the client being exploited wasn't a family member, a roommate, or a caregiver. So those are the categories that you would have to fall into in order to be investigated by this unit in the state of Illinois.
That's horrible. You have your old company that's ratting on you to the state and they won't do anything about it.
Yeah, yeah.
I wonder how they caught it.
I don't know. And then the thing is, they caught it after she left. And I was looking for that information. So here's my speculation. My speculation is after she left, these individuals looked at their bank statements and saw that, hey, the money wasn't there and wondered and then asked, or after she left, they were trying to contact her and couldn't find her. And so they told City. Because my guess is when she left, she wasn't still in contact with these individuals whose money that they had spent. And so they wanted to figure out when they were going to get a return on their investment and couldn't find her.
So she was fired in 1992 at the start of her career after her ex-fiance's parents, who were also her clients, claimed that there was a discrepancy over funds in their cash accounts. Caldwell's broker comment claims a restraining order was placed on the ex-fiance and that his parents allegedly threatened professional harm. Two customer disputes in 2008 were tied to auction rate securities and they settled for 300,000 and 150,000. So it doesn't
Yeah.
sound like this may be the first time.
No. And then, my speculation is, well, her passion, quote unquote, was in the movies, but being a financial services professional paid the bills.
Right.
The movie is not cheap.
No. Yeah. I think the thing that kind of kills me though is her statement that she had. I allowed myself to become overwhelmed and careless, and I am so very sorry. I had a duty to protect my clients to the best of my ability, and I fell short.
Yeah, yeah. It got so bad that a group called Injustice Watch and the Chicago Times, they published a series of articles detailing fraudulent activities and the issues in dealing with Illinois' safety net for the elderly, the Illinois Department of Aging Adult Protective Services Division. Because apparently there had been some other articles written about that division and some of the loopholes in the law and how it didn't cover the elderly adequately, at least according to this group Injustice Watch. I still go back to we don't live as a community anymore. When we lived as a
Mm-mm.
community, you oftentimes took care of the elderly. My grandmother that passed last year, she would always get calls from people in the neighborhood. Hey, are you okay? And if something was really wrong, they would call either my mom or some people would even call me. So I think when we've lost a lot of that, the individualism that we now live in. When we lost a lot of that, we
Mhm.
lost the protection for the elderly.
Yeah. No, I could see that. I live. My neighbors were still. I think we're still pretty close. I mean, enough where I told my husband last night. By the way, Jerry and his wife. You're not going to see them for a while. I saw them. Their daughter taking them somewhere, and they had suitcases. So I'm guessing they're out of town for a week. Because like my husband will be like, "Hey,
Ah,
have you seen Jerry? Because he hasn't cut his lawn and it's getting pretty long." And I'm like, "No, no, no. I
see?
saw him."
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about that used to exist in neighborhoods. And so if you're just joining us, we're talking today about a young woman who used her position at Citibank to get money from the elderly, at least three elderly people, to finance her filmmaking, her movie projects. From one individual, she got about 13 checks totaling over $400,000. From another individual, she was able to get $355,000, and I wasn't able to find the dollar amount from the third person, but that's at least two people that she got
Mhm.
close to $1 million from.
Right. Now I did just come across this, and this might actually be a good conversation piece. Some people are saying that Citi remains liable and that they're still aggressively pursuing Citi, while Citi's lawyers are arguing that the bank is not financially liable.
Yeah, so now that's a good point. The son of one of the victims is actually blaming Citi, and he said, and I quote, "The biggest culprit is Citi." So that's what he said.
Yeah. I guess it all depends on how the money, because I'm sitting here thinking about so this would probably fall under Citi's bond claim because of it being an employee, but does it depend on how that money was given to her?
Yeah, so oh god. Here I, okay. We like to blame big corporations for a lot of things that happen, right? But
Mhm.
I think one of the only ways we can blame City is if, like you just said, she had a checkered past, and this has happened before, but if she has a checkered past that is easily discoverable by some sort of employment check, and City negligently missed out on that during the employment screening, then yeah. But when you really look at this, City has tens of thousands of employees. If her background is squeaky clean and nothing came up, how could they know that she was? And I hate saying this because it's you really want to fight for the elderly, right? But how could they know that she would have done this and that she was this type of person? So barring any other evidence that shows that hey, she's a horrible person, she's done this before, she's very bad, then how could you really blame the company?
Right.
Oh, I
And I
hated to
think
say
I'm
that.
looking at it from a fidelity bond coverage, the coverage that they would get in the event that an employee committed fraud, that they could do that bond
Right.
claim against. Do you know what I'm saying? The
Yeah. Yeah.
employer director dishonesty type of a bond. Um,
Yep.
I mean, if
Now,
you were Citibank, would you
let's
just
go
do
back.
it? Would you just do a bond claim and see if they pay it?
Oh, now that's a good point. Yeah, they could just do a bond claim and see if they pay it.
Just do
That's
a
a good
bond
point.
claim, see if they pay it. I mean, it's all that's going to do is it's going to make you look better. I think it would have made it look better than Citi going, "Hey, our attorneys are saying we don't have to pay that money back." And they should have just, if it was me, I would have sat there from a risk perspective, because you got your reputation risk. I would have just sat there and said, file a bond claim. Let's see what the bond company does with it. Because if they pay it to us, then we can give that money back, and we don't look like the a-holes here.
You make a very good point because when you think about it, City is a what I, I don't even know what their net worth or their asset size is now, but it's got to be trillions, right? Definitely multiple billions. Um, but you think a company the size of City, weighing the risk and the reputational risk to this, probably could have just said, yeah, let's go ahead and
Yeah.
file a bond claim, see what they come back with, and we'll pay the difference if it's less than what she was out.
Right. 117.4 billion with B.
Billion. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
Just
money.
pay them their money back.
Yeah. Well, and then especially when you think about the one, like you mentioned previously, she was in a nursing home or is in a nursing home.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
And
how
is
she
there
had that much money being in a nursing home though. Wow.
uh I guess it all depends. She could have quite a bit of money and is living in a really nice nursing home. Um I don't know if it's the same one, but wants to repay the savings lost by Priscilla Eddings, one of Caldwell's older clients who is now living in a nursing home with dementia. So it's even more like, I don't know.
Yep.
It's one of my friends say when you mess with the elderly, the disabled, he goes, there's a special place for you.
100%. Definitely
Mm-hmm.
a special place for you. 100%. So here's our young lady that's living in the nursing home with dementia.
Oh.
So
Like, what just, I don't know. I don't even know why I try to understand why people do this. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, when I'm just like, what made you think? I don't know. I don't know why I try to understand it. I don't know if you've ever tried understanding it on some of these.
yeah, I do on all of them. Like with this one, I believe that this woman was passionate about movies, and either she didn't get the break that she felt like she deserved. Because look at how long she continued to try to do it. And even though it didn't pay the bills, being an investment person, a financial advisor, or whatever she was, I forgot what she officially was now, that paid the bills. And so she begrudgingly went to work. And I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
shame when people can't find some joy in what it is that they do. Even though if it's not the dream job that you have, you can find some joy in the thing that you do, and that way make yourself happy. But yeah, I think that's how she ended up defrauding these people is she wanted to make movies.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I like that one story we had about the person that committed fraud, but she had an opioid addiction, I think. Like that I sit here in my head and I go, okay, I understand what drove her to do it. She had this like serious addiction. But even on this one, what was it? Cuz she did have the movies that she was doing, but she ended up spending her money to refurbish a classic car, pay off parking tickets, repaint her home, book Airbnbs, purchase home goods, clothing, and decor. That's what she used the money
Yeah.
on. Unless
Well,
she
and
was,
what was interesting is this was $700,000. You could get a whole lot more than the stuff you just read for $700,000. So
yeah,
is there a movie? Where is the movie? How, like, what?
right. How much are parking tickets in Chicago?
Well, in Chicago, they can be pretty expensive, right? Because it's pretty expensive to park there. Um, now the U.S. attorney said this wasn't a mistake. It wasn't poor judgment. It wasn't an anomaly. The level of deceit here was pretty high.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, does everybody want to guess how long she's got to serve?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, yeah. How long do you all think she's going to serve for defrauding at least three elderly individuals and collecting at least $800,000, maybe more, probably more, in a very malicious way. Um, how
And
long do you all think?
keep in mind, the district judge did make this statement. The only difference between Miss Caldwell and a bank robber is that she didn't have a mask and a gun. And actually, in some ways, it was worse because they trusted her and she knew they trusted her. And I'll give you another hint. I'm still not satisfied with what she got. I'm so not satisfied.
So Stephanie says 5 years out in 3. Now, where's Joe? I wonder if Joe is still listening. What do you think, Joe? How much time? Shree, Marsha, how much time do you
Um,
think
did
she
you
got
say what she got
for?
charged with?
I did not. You can say it.
Wire fraud. Was that it? That's all she got charged with.
There was one other thing that I'm looking for right now and I can't find it. Hold on one second. It was wire fraud and something else. Give me just 1 minute here.
Keep in mind, her attorney
Okay.
is proposing probation, while Rubenstein
Yep.
suggested substantial incarceration and extended supervised release.
So she was charged with a single count of wire fraud. Now, they're saying that she swindled nearly $1.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
Now, wire fraud is a very serious crime that has upwards of 20 years that could be imposed. So I thought there was one other thing she was charged with, something having to do with the elderly, but maybe I was wrong about that. I can't find that now. All right, so we've got a few guesses here. Joe said, oh, geez, 3 years time served. Okay. Shree says 1 year probation. Hmm. Oh, and then Joe said, and a ban not to work in the financial industry.
Which they did do that. I think it was the OCC that served that, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Let me see.
So what she actually got was 2.5 years for wire fraud and restitution of how much? Oh man, I can't find that one. Oh, full restitution to her victims. Yeah.
The 1.5, right?
Yeah, the 1.5 million full restitution to her victims and to serve 3 years of supervised release following her release from prison. So 3.5 years.
But you know she's not going to sit that long. And they even said the typical sentence for that crime is 41 months, but he reduced it to 30 because she has no previous criminal history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you made a good point earlier, and you've said it a few times. How many people did she actually defraud that either A, didn't come forward out of embarrassment, or since they were the elderly, how many have just passed away now? Marcia says,
Right.
how old was she? She was 59, right?
Yep.
Or is 59. Yeah. So
Yep.
she's 59 years old. And Joe says a cushy fed country club. I don't know. Are they cushy? I don't. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't. Well, I guess here's my question on that. Like, would she, and I don't know, which is probably a good thing. How do they determine what prison you go to?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I mean, I think it's a good thing. That's one of those answers that it's probably a good thing that we don't know. We haven't had to go through it. Although I have been to prison for work.
You
Um,
visited a prison.
I worked at a prison for work. Yeah,
Oh,
we had to. It was. I'll have to tell you the story off Friday Fraudster one of these times. But no, there was a credit union inside one of the prisons in Wisconsin, so we would have to go and examine them. So I'd have to go into the prison, go through security. So yeah, I got to do that a few times.
now that's interesting.
There's a couple cool places I've gotten to go. Got to go to a credit union on an Air Force base. Have to go through that security. Mhm.
Oh. Now Joe
Fun.
says he's been to Rikers. Man, what was
Ooh.
that like?
Like I'm guessing visit like of course visiting. Gosh, that sounded stupid. Because Rikers isn't open anymore, right?
I don't know. I thought it was still open. Maybe it's not. I've actually toured a prison
Oh,
before, a maximum security, and it was an eye-opening experience. Let's just say that.
they're trying to close it by the 2027 deadline.
Uh,
Like, can you go and tour that place? I guess that's the question for Joseph. Like, can I just go to New York and say, hey, I want to see what Rikers Island looks like?
I'm not sure if you can do that. I think Joe may have been visiting someone. I mean, unless it's like a work tour. Like sometimes companies, because I toured one, and it was because the organization I was working for had set it up with the warden, and we got to see some interesting things. See, there you go. Joe said he toured for work. Okay,
Okay.
there we go. Yeah, that makes more sense.
I go, oh my gosh. Sometimes I wonder if my IT people are probably like, what is she Googling this stuff?
What did you just Google? Whether Rikers was still open or not?
Can you go on a tour of Rikers Island? And the thing, it popped up from TripAdvisor. No, of course not. Prisoners are not zoo animals. Was the result.
Did
And
you
I'm more
say it
appalled by
popped up
the
on
question.
Trip? Wait a minute. Did you say it popped up on TripAdvisor?
And now I feel bad for asking the question.
Can you
I didn't
imagine
say
the
I was smart
TripAdvisor
all the
rating?
time. What were you saying?
I said, can you imagine the TripAdvisor rating?
I'm not Googling that. No, maybe I should. Oh man. And then I can ask Joe in our IT department. Do you guys look at my Google searches? He will after that.
Yeah, they probably will now. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so if you're just joining us, we're talking about a young lady who was some sort of investment advisor for Citigroup, and she
Mhm.
convinced at least three elderly individuals to give her around $1.5 million to invest in her movie, but records show that she spent most of the money on personal expenses for herself. This was in the Chicago area. Citibank turned her in to an Illinois group that whose mission is to actually help the elderly, and they refused to do anything about this particular case because the individual was not a family member, and two other criteria that they said. So now one of the victims' son is blaming Citi for what happened.
Yeah. Which one?
Yeah, Marsha's saying I think there's a prison you can visit in the USA. So now Christine is like, which one I want to go? Uh,
Well, I don't. Well, I've like I said, I've been in one, but
oh no. So wait, is this Stephanie again? This topic just drives a dagger through my heart, as this is just the situation I recently lost my mother to. Started as an investment scam, Over time, they decided to befriend her in person at her own senior living apartment, and then it escalated. Wow.
That's sad.
Wow. Oh, and then Stephanie saying very difficult to get legal or law enforcement to help. But why is it difficult to get them to help, though? I wonder. But again, I think I I really do wish we could go back to some of the oh, that's not Stephanie. Oops. I really do wish we could go back to some of those old the way communities used to be, where you looked out for your neighbor and your neighbor looked out for you, because I think this would stop a lot of that. All right, I need to see who this is now, so let me
Well,
log
and for
in
the
from my.
law, you're good. For the law enforcement help, I think it also depends on the area that you're in. And I say that only because I know that there's certain counties that we've dealt with, they're easier to deal with because they're smaller county communities. And it's harder to get law enforcement involved in bigger areas like Milwaukee County. Like Milwaukee's got higher crime rates and other stuff like that. And there are only so many police officers that they have to help out with that stuff. So I do agree that it can be very difficult to get the law enforcement help. Or even at some of the smaller law enforcement areas don't have the capacity or even the specialty to assist with that. So
Ah,
figure out who it was.
yeah. No, I can't tell. Linky is not showing me everyone's comments on the platform, so I have
Oh,
no idea who it is right now. But we'll find out later, because after it's over with, it'll start to pop up and we'll see. But whoever you are, I do apologize, because it all it says is LinkedIn user. That is all it says to me. But yeah, so it's sad when this happens. Um, it's sad when we can't adequately protect the elderly. I'm just thankful. Joe is saying someone in K. Oh, I'm just thankful that my grandparents, so all of my grandparents have passed now at this point, but um, they had communities of people to take care of them. I know I would get calls sometimes, hey, your grandmother's doing this. Is everything okay? From neighbors and other people whenever things looked funny. So some of my friends would even say, hey, I went over to your grandmother's house today and helped her with this. I'm like, oh man, thanks. So I really do wish we could go back to knowing your neighbors and people being friendly to one another, just because we're all humans, right?
right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do hope they get their money back. Hopefully, city will step up or she will go ahead and pay her restitution, which I'd be more apt for city or the bond to pay it, and then the restitution would just go back to them.
Oh wow. So yeah, this is Kay, and Kay says I will be bringing my mother's full story as soon as prosecution is reached. Wow. Oh wow. Yeah, I think more people need to hear um, stories like this. 'Cause it is sad. It's very sad. People work hard for their money, and to have someone else siphon it from you, um, it is disheartening. It is very disheartening.
Yeah.
All right, Christine. Anything else on this story for this week?
No, I don't think so. I guess I'm not going to
Oh.
Rikers anytime soon.
All right. So whenever we have a story like this, I'm going to end it like I always do with these. If you have an elderly friend or family member, reach out to them every once in a while, once a week, once a month, just periodically, and listen to the stories that they tell, because they'll tell you everything. Hey, this young man or young woman visited me today and they said ABC. If it sounds funny, say something, but just call, the elderly people that are in your life every once in a while. I call both of my grandmothers periodically, um, just to check on them, see how they were doing? And Kay says they took every penny.
And
Wow.
in your state, in your counties, go ahead and take a look and see if they have aging and disability resources in your state.
Mm.
Wisconsin has them here. So at any time you feel like somebody you know, in your neighbors, somebody is being taken advantage, financially abusive or whatever, you can actually submit to them directly, and then they will take over and do all the investigation and all that stuff directly through there. So at any time you guys see something, say
Oh,
something, there are those resources that are out there.
very interesting. Very good. Very good. Yeah, definitely. Elderly abuse is definitely, yeah, via fraud. Yeah.
Yep. And
Yeah.
like our ADRC throughout our state, they will, like, they have authority. They can contact financial institutions. They will meet with the people that are being victimized, ask them questions. Like, they get seriously involved. They get like a caseworker assigned to them. So
Now I can see this. This actually is Stephanie, and she says adult family services would probably be the department or the agency that you would contact in your state. Yeah. Okay.
mhm.
That is very good to know. Well, all right, people.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us this week. We'll see you all next week.
Take care.